friends, did you know that Medium Curious is brought to you by VerySoul? VerySoul is a platform where everyone can receive a free mediumship reading. And it provides us... What? Yeah, free. Really. And it provides a safe place for mediums in training to go practice, but also practice.
Yes, mediums need practice.
Yes, we do.
But did you know that VerySoul upholds vigorous standards for their working mediums? By requiring compelling evidence in every session, they ensure consistent, reliable, and meaningful experiences for every client. So go to verysoul.com, mediums you can trust.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jane.
And I'm Sarah.
And you're listening to the Medium Curious podcast, the show that's all about the happily ever after.
Aww. We like that. The happily ever after in the physical?
Yeah, sort of.
Because we know the happily ever after in the afterlife
is real.
Pretty happening.
Simultaneously with you.
Well, happily ever after is a term that we quite often hear with married.
Yay!
And that's what today's episode is all about, medium married. So we thought it'd be fun to bring our husbands in.
But first, we're going to have a quick chat with the two of us, and then you'll meet the husbands. So ready? Go. Sarah.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. We're going to meet the husbands today. Are you nervous?
Yeah. I don't know why, though. They're great.
They're so great.
And I got to say, I feel so grateful for them because they are both so super supportive of what we do. And they're very open to it. And I even think my husband's a little medium himself.
Totally. I think after hearing him talk, I agree. And the same with this other guy, my husband. But
yeah, he totally is.
I know,
you could just see it in his clear blue eyes.
And his chart. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. So what do you do, though, if you happen to be in a relationship or in a situation or you're living with people that aren't supportive of what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, I think I just want to honor that. Anyone who is in that situation, like how strong and how amazing you must be to continue to pursue this and to continue to align to this beautiful, profound, and important practice of cross communication across the veil. Because if you don't have like a partner who's like, yay, go you, and yet you still do it, then you must be strong as heck.
Yeah.
Just to bring my Southern roots in here. Like for real. That's profoundly brave and beautiful. And so I think that's part of what we wanted to just kind of do a little
acknowledge today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a few different friends who I have given readings or have talked about this, like they would say, oh, I don't really want my whole family to know about this. Can we meet, do
secretly?
This? Great. Yeah. I actually did a practice reading with this woman and she gave me a stunning reading. It was beautiful. She connected with my grandfather in a way that was so profound and it really like touched me right at the core of my heart. And I was asking about her and her mediumship. I just felt so sure that she could be like this huge, booming professional medium. And she said that she had to keep it under wraps, that she didn't want her husband to know about it. And that it was something that she didn't tell any of her friends about.
Wow.
And that just kind of broke my heart because she was so good. She was so good. So I just want to offer to everybody out there that since everything has started to come online, like internet wise, during COVID, a lot of mediums started getting online. VerySoul was born.
Yeah.
That there is community out there now. There is support and you can find other like-minded people doing this. So you don't have to feel completely alone because you can feel really alone doing this.
Totally. And there are just ebbs and flows to the actual practice and to the experience of it that you need support. Like we got on this call before we hit record and went, sometimes it's just really hard.
It
It's really
is.
hard to keep your vibe up to the highest shelf when life is being lifey. So yeah, having friends who do this and friends who love this, like we do, we want to invite you. If you haven't found that community, come hang out with us on Substack. We're just Medium Curious Pod on Substack, and we're really hoping to, create that and invite that. And we just want you to know how much we love you and appreciate your brilliance and your courage and your brave hearts. And I feel like, this husband that you're about to meet of mine, I've had so many lifetimes with this person, and I wonder, and I don't get to know, but I believe that, we came into this life with the expectation that he was gonna need to be supportive of this chick. So and who knows, maybe that partner is still on the horizon for you, or maybe this lifetime you wanted to be a badass solopreneur.
So we should definitely introduce everybody to these Morgan men. Can you believe that? Okay, so
weird.
This is really funny. We're both married to men whose last names are Morgan. Jane and I almost were Jane and Sarah Morgan, except for I didn't change my last name.
I almost didn't either, but I did.
So my husband's David Morgan and Jane's husband is Joe Morgan, but they're not related and we're not related.
Not at all.
Of.
We're just both married to Morgan men. So let's go meet them. And the conversation we're picking up on is the moment where I said to David Morgan, like, what do you think about being married to a beautiful medium? How's that for you?
My job is to stay out of the way and just let the magic flow.
Aww. So, Joe, what do you think when Jane came out of the mediumship closet?
I think we have to go back to very soon after we met.
Oh, it goes that far back, huh?
I want Jane to help me with this story too.
Yes.
And maybe perhaps even tell it because.
Well, I feel like I came straight out and helped this man who I immediately had a crush on know exactly who he was dealing with, exactly who I am, whatever. Because day 3 of hanging out, I was like, do you know that you and I have a past life together where I was terrible to you and I need to apologize to you. And I made a weepy amends to the guy.
And I said, you're pretty.
And that was the beginning of our.
Yeah, that was
That's how it all started.
No, but there was, I think with me, there was a little bit of that. Okay, but I was open to it. I'd had my own experiences brushing up against it.
Well, from what I understand, though, Joe, Jane always says Joe's actually the medium. Joe really is the medium of the two of us. So there's got to be a reason why she says that to me.
It's a joke. I have some would call it superpower, some would call it talent at finding car keys.
That is super talent. But do you remember, Joe, I helped you find your wallet once. Do you remember?
Psychically?
Yes.
That's where I got it. You rubbed off on me a little bit because I can do that with my wallet sometimes too. Like where, yeah.
He just tunes in. Yeah.
That's such a helpful skill.
It really is, especially because he loses these things all the time. So to be able to.
They lose me. That's the way I look at it. Like keep up with me.
Come on, Keys.
But I'm not a medium.
He's totally a medium. Here's the thing. So there was this astrologer that I got one of these sort of mini readings from her, and it's pretty neat because she just knows nothing about the guy, and she's like, gosh, he's really intuitive. According to his chart, he's a medium, and according to my chart, I might be. You know what I mean? And I was like, damn it, he's the medium. Oh, okay. So David, what about you? Yeah. Tell us about your powerful intuition.
I don't know. I think there isn't one box that everything fits in. Right? There's lots of different parts of this that can go anywhere from a singular defined practice and type of communication and way of connecting, all the way through to random things that happen here and there that don't necessarily fall into that same definition. And there's actually a story I was thinking about the other day when I was listening to someone on the radio talking about their new book. And I don't think I've actually ever told you this story.
Yeah, tell me now.
So, the interview was with the author Sebastian Junger, who was the author of The Perfect Storm. But when he was in his mid-30s, he was walking through Boston and had like a massive aneurysm and was in the hospital, and he doesn't remember much. The doctor came to him in the trauma bay, and I'm paraphrasing here, and said, "Do I have your consent to put this needle in your jugular vein?" And he's like, "Oh, is that if things get really bad?" He's like, "This is the thing getting bad." And he said that was the last thing he remembered. And then he just felt like a big hole opened up under the bed, like a void, and he was falling into it. And his father had passed away years before, and he said all of a sudden he saw his father there, like, "Don't be afraid of the void, come towards me." And he's like, "You're dead. Why would I come towards you? What's going on here?" And so he pushed back away from the void. And he said the last thing he remembered saying something to the doctor is, "We should work on this because I don't think I'm going to be here much longer." And then he came to in the ICU a few days later. And he goes on and tells this story about a manifestation of a nurse coming in and saying, "It isn't something you should be scared of. You should consider it sacred."
Mm-hmm.
And he said that really resonated with him. And years later, when he started writing this book, he went back and tried to figure out who the nurse was. No one in the hospital has any records of this nurse ever being there. So it's a pretty crazy book because he is a scientist and he doesn't believe any of this. So it's called In My Time of Dying. But anyway, Sebastian Junger. So that reminded me of something that happened to me in high school. I broke my back.
Whoa.
And I dove into the ocean and hit a sandbar and compressed my spine. Tried to hang out with my friends. The ride home from the beach hurt. I couldn't tell my parents because I wasn't supposed to have been at the beach.
Right.
Fast forward 8 days later. In these 8 days, I've done high school driver's ed, the whole of it with a broken back. I have to go to the orthopedic surgeon the next day, or the orthopedist, and who had seen me for a couple times for other things. And I described what happened. He said, "Where on your back does it hurt?" And he pressed on it. As soon as he pressed on my back, I passed out immediately. They took me in there to give me an x-ray. And I'm standing there and they're positioning the machine. And I go dark and I fall and I smash my head against the x-ray machine. And then all of a sudden, I'm up in the corner of the room and I can see myself lying on the floor.
Whoa.
And
You never told me this.
see everything that's going on around me. And
Oh
it
my
was a
God.
long time ago now, and I don't have as much clarity on all the details. But then, so I
Oh
don't.
my God.
This was part of a path that could have been a one-way path that ended up being a two-way path where I went out and then came back. But
So that's a near-death experience,
Well, I would
and
call
you
that
are hovering above your
out of
body.
body.
Out of body.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it was near death. But
Well, you also have had, unfortunately, a couple of friends who've passed away recently. And each time, sadly, you told me about it. You said that you had the urge about a couple days before they passed to call them. So that is definitely an intuitive hit. And then when your one friend was getting pulled off of life support, you didn't know it was happening, but you said you could feel her and you had full body chills. And then when you correlated the time of when you felt that and found out that she had been pulled off, you also said that that's what your experience had been. So, I mean,
And then that afternoon, we were in a grocery store and something threw cucumbers at me off the shelf.
What?
Yes.
Wait, which afternoon? Wait, I'm lost.
This afternoon of the day Sarah's talking about when
That his friend
so they're off vegetable. This was like
so your friend threw cucumbers at you.
this was like a week and a half ago. And then the next day something threw a picture off the wall in the bathroom.
This doesn't happen to me because I just listen to spirit. So
you don't need spirit to throw things at you.
I had two friends pass in the span of about 24 hours, and it could have been either of them or both of them together hanging out with the other friend from a couple years ago that was part of Triumvirate that would have done that happily to me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so sorry for your losses, David. That's crazy.
So to go full circle back to what that nurse or the spirit who passed along to that author is, don't look at it with fear, look at it as sacred. And I'm so much better for having known them and for holding them with me. So there's always a bit of sadness and there's some grief, but I don't think we missed any opportunities to smile. So all of that together.
That's adorable.
It's interesting, just a side note too, that both David and Sebastian Junger, I think of as two fairly pragmatic people.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't Sebastian Junger was he a war reporter or
he was a war reporter and
journalist?
A number of his friends had passed away, and he was a confirmed and affirmed atheist.
Right.
So this book he has written is not about necessarily believing, but about interviewing people and gathering all of the stories they have of the evidence that they have that they lean on that gives them reason to believe.
Cool. So, that's a good title. Reason
that
to
would
believe.
Be a good interview.
Yeah. Well, go get it. Or you can go get it.
Because it's very different from The Perfect Storm. Or maybe not so different. I don't know.
Right.
There's got to be, I would imagine, a thread there somewhere. But
yeah.
Well, I wonder if it's worth, I mean, you know, my introduction to my husband was, hi, I met you in a past life. Nice to see you again. But what do you guys, even, I probably had just read the Brian Weiss book, Many Lives, Many Masters or something, you know, there was some reason that was just like really hot in my consciousness. Plus the fact that we had this past life and I did a terrible thing. But anyway, so you guys, what do you think? Do you have a sense that you've been around together many times? And
well, let me ask you that question first. Do you?
You're closer to it than I am. You should tell your story.
Well, yeah, I was a bartender, and he walked into the bar. Yeah, but when I saw him, it was like this. It was this look of familiarity, and I've had that with some other people in my life, like Eliza. When I saw her, I was like, "Oh, she looks really familiar to me." You know, there's just like, I know you from somewhere, but I've never met you before. And we'd actually been at the same parties, but we hadn't met. So we had our opportunities to meet had come up, but it just hadn't happened yet. So if we hadn't met then, we would have met at some point. But then I had a Akashic record reading by this woman named Sarah Rose. And she said that we've been together for many lifetimes and that you're in this lifetime for me to help me and to make things easier for me because I find his whole life thing difficult, which is true. Like he takes care of all of the tough stuff.
Wait, but hold on. Sorry, she said that he's here to help you make life smooth, which is fantastic. Yeah. Good job, David. But also, like,
not always, but I put in a solid 8 hours. Yeah,
you might flip in and out of that. But the question you just said that you find this life hard, it's so weird. I don't perceive that about you.
Well, I'm a sensitive. You're a sensitive. Yeah. There's something about being a sensitive in the world that's hard. It just is, you know, and he knows that about me, and he helps me move through this world as a sensitive and takes care of all of the stuff that is exhausting to me. Like,
I see.
all the good sports. Joe, what did you think about when Jane was all of a sudden, well, I know it wasn't all of a sudden. I know it took quite a while, but when she said, hey, I'm going to leave my corporate job and I'm going to be a medium full time.
I was perhaps too supportive. Looking back.
You should have talked me out of it.
God bless. Yeah, no. By the time, she told me that after she served me my fourth drink, I didn't feel, so we come from when we met, we were both in the arts. She was a filmmaker. I was an actor. I was still doing music also, but the liquidity, the flimsiness of those careers, and I don't mean but just how changeable they are, how dynamically different they can be from day to day or week to week. It was just, I think it had primed me for hearing her, and as you heard, since I met her, she'd always been interested in it, curious about it. It's like, yeah, gotta do it.
And how's it been since she's been doing it?
A nightmare. No, it's been interesting because of the journey she's been on, but also it's been fascinating to watch. It's been fascinating to hear the stories. It's been interesting to see how I've reacted or what I think. One of my questions for David is, do you ever discern what you say to certain people, when they say, so what does your wife do? I find myself doing that sometimes, and more, not out of any embarrassment, but out of being protective. It feels like something so personal that I don't feel the need to reveal that to everybody, and I don't feel. I feel like it would be disingenuous of me to say, for the purposes of, yeah, she's a medium, and act like that's, a perfectly normal, regular thing to do and be, because I know it's way out, especially in our materialist culture, it's way out of most people's scope. So wait, or maybe not. Maybe I may just be discounting people unnecessarily.
So sorry, can I just understand? So you're saying that if someone asks you what I do, you say she's a filmmaker, or you say she drives the kid to golf practice, or what do you say?
I don't know. I don't know what I say. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of what I say now.
You say we have a blockbuster podcast. That's what you say.
I do mention a podcast.
The problem is when they ask, like, what's it about?
It's about being, curious about things, but not too curious, just kind of medium.
Medium amount of curiosity.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
It's the window we all want to live in.
I think from my perspective, like what I mentioned before, that there's so many different components that could come in to any one person's definition or preconceptions of any of this, that Sarah's also an amazing musician and dedicated a huge majority of her life being an educator and a musician first.
Yeah.
So a scenario like that where someone was asking me would typically be either at a school event or something where I was meeting some business people. And I'm amazed by Sarah's musicianship. And so I usually lead with that. And then when it comes to this, I try to stay in my own lane, as there's so many different preconceptions, and I'm not really worried about them thinking it was not something of value or worthy or sane. It's more that it's not my story to tell. If they're open to it, and if they're exploring conversations like this, they'll find the podcast a lot sooner than they would have maybe a year ago. So, Sarah, it's your story. You best positioned to tell it. I don't know. Are you about to dispute? No. That's not what I actually say.
I mean, I'm selective with people who I talk about it with too. I mean, there's the people that I feel safe telling things to. And then there's people I just know for sure. If I say something to them, they'll be like, what? Okay, I'm going to go walk over this way now.
But I don't think it's true just of this. I think there are other things too. They're like when you meet people or you're having casual conversation, if you kind of roll back to like, what does it take to have a conversation where you would open up and say certain things? It's about trust.
Yeah.
And how you know this person and where the conversation would go. And if it's something that's personal, you wouldn't necessarily open up about other things that you may hold as very personal in a casual conversation too. So I wouldn't take that as singular only about this topic, but it's something that falls into that kind of sacred space where it deserves a proper conversation and proper attention and the proper people in the room if we're going to have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Are you okay with that, by the way?
Yeah. And thank you. I appreciate the discernment. Yeah. It feels kind of protective because honestly, I do feel kind of protective over it. Like, I don't need to, I don't know. Because people feel so strongly. And the right people have found me. The people that I can be of service to do find me. And that does not mean the broad population. Yeah. I don't know. Do you feel the same way, Jane? Or do you feel like...
Yeah, I sometimes have like amnesia about it, kind of like when I met Joe Morgan and I was like, hey, baby, let me tell you about a past life. Like sometimes my discernment's missing. Like yesterday I was on a client call and I said, and I'm still a filmmaker and I would do filmmaker-y stuff along with medium-y stuff. And this time I just don't own the company. I'm just now as a freelancer. And this client who I don't know very well, I said something about Substack. And I was like, yes, well, Substack is the same. No one's attention is held past 100 words or whatever. And then he goes, what's your Substack about? And I was like, dang it.
Yeah, outed yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, tell me about your woo quotient. And he was like, what? I was like, what do you think about woo? But then he wound up telling me. So I did open up to him about what I do. And he told me this incredible story about his mother's funeral in India. And it was absolutely stunning and touching. I'm weeping on this Zoom call. And so, life is so cool and magical. And like, to your point, Sarah, these openings, and as you said it really well too, David, like there are these kind of weird magical things that occur that help you understand that this is what's happening. And I guess I'm stepping in and, it goes different ways, different times. Like the other time I was on an airplane and I said something to the woman next to me and I thought she was going to kill me.
It wasn't Joe Morgan, was it?
It was not Joe Morgan.
Joe Morgan? Huh.
She should fly more.
I have airplane karma.
Because it is amazing the things that happen to her on planes.
I sold like $600,000 worth of video once on an airplane because I sat next to someone and I said, I see you have a Microsoft laptop. I make videos for Microsoft. And then I sold this whole huge deal. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So find a husband, get a job, piss off Christians. That's what I
Go
do.
get on an airplane with a to-do list. Yeah.
I'm happy to go. Where do you want me to go?
Sarah, I have a question for you.
Okay, and we have to bring this in for a landing pretty soon.
I'll try and form it as a yes or no answer. So, is there any connection that you feel or felt between music and mediumship? Were there times in, as far as music goes, because we both have been doing it forever, and it's completely otherworldly, in a very basic way that nobody can explain. I don't care what the physics are, but I was just wondering if you had experiences that you can map back to, or if it's foreshadowed in some way.
The feeling that I get when I'm engaged in music is very similar to the feeling that I get when I'm engaged with mediumship. And I think, which side of the brain is it? The right side of the brain that you're in when you're not thinking at all, when you're just immersed in the moment. But it almost like those transcendent musical experiences where you're just body chills all over, and you feel like you're having a spiritual moment. It's a very sacred moment, especially when my favorite musical experiences is performing with a large group of people, and we're all in that same transcendent, beautiful spiritual space together. That feels very much like mediumship to me. Actually, I gave this woman, this beautiful singer, a Akashic record reading yesterday, and she was asking about her guides, and I said, they're like a choir. They're standing all around you. I can sense them as a choir that's just all around you, and when you sing, they're just supporting you and singing through you. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Joe.
Wow.
How about you?
Sure. It does answer my question. It's more of a feeling.
Yeah, right? It is totally a feeling that can't be described. That really can't. There's no words to adequately describe.
Yeah. I think the experiences that connect to my mediumship. No, the experiences I have had either in music, theater, and sports, I think are more along the lines of Joseph Campbell's peak experiences. When he talks about that, where I am just, they're not out of body experiences. They're just, I'm just watching my body do things. A little slightly different. There was one hockey experience where I was above my body a little bit, just about 5 feet, watching it do these things.
I love that. That's really cool.
But anyway, I think I just speculate that if there's some commonality between your experience and my experience, it's because mine is more basic, I think, maybe. But it's the flow.
Yeah, it's being in the flow.
You get into.
Yep.
And it's
it's the not thinking. It's
getting out of your own way.
Absolute present moment.
Right.
Experiencing. It's experiential. It's experiencing magic, quite honestly.
Yeah.
You all are obviously talking about it from the position of playing it. As a participant in the audience, I haven't shared anything the same as what you all have shared, but I've had
transcendent
experiences.
I think it's the beauty of music.
That's cool. And there's a line that comes to mind, which is, once in a while you get shown the light and the strangers of places and you look at it right, which sometimes feels, I just got the chills when I said that too. So there you go. Yeah. And that's a friend. I know exactly who that is right there. So my buddy Paul. So, but I mean, what you all are doing and having the conversations with folks, or there was someone I know from a business world who posted a very honest message on her Instagram page just the other day because a friend of hers had passed and she was at the funeral and she felt some incredible presences. And I started texting with her about your podcast and she was like, oh my God. And we started talking about the book. That's the story we didn't even touch on here about Emily.
Yeah.
Signs. Laura Lynn Jackson's book, Signs. Yeah.
She's like, that's my favorite book. And like, these are conversations you don't think you would ever have with people.
Yes.
And that's, I think, an example of, Joe, to your point, one of the places where someone sort of put out a loose thread and I pulled on it a bit.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of some of these conversations, I'm now using the term sacred, or I think valued conversations. When you see a little opportunity, it's more when there's some trust and there's some buy-in from the other side, because some of these stories are extremely personal in terms of the outcomes.
No.
Well, can you tell us that story? I know we need to close, but maybe we can end with that, because I know our listeners would be really curious to hear it. The story of how your third child came to Earth through the help of a medium. David, do you mind sharing that story with us before we close?
And I think I've got it to a quicker version.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Give me
I think the quality in the business world is I'm a good storyteller, but that isn't necessarily I'm a short storyteller.
Nope.
But the origin story of this is some great friends of ours had a son who was the same age as our son, and Sarah and our friend Eliza became extremely close when we both moved in the same vicinity, and our boys basically grew up together. And he passed. Fast forward from there, and we're at a wedding reception, and Laura Lynn Jackson is there. I had, at this point in time, Eliza and Sarah are talking about whether or not they were going to have a third child. Eliza was already committed, and Sarah was working on me really hard. I wasn't
she was working on you for
about having a third child. I mean, I've always worked for startups. Life is unexpected and uncheap in California, and it's a big commitment. And with all of our children, we've done it purposefully. There are no accidents in the souls that have joined our life, because it's hard enough when you want them there, let alone you were less enthused to have them. So I wasn't so sure about it, though. It was a big obligation and a big commitment. And we were, at this point in time, Daniel was already 4, I think. Yep. So so I walked over to where Sarah was standing with her friends, and they were talking. There was a group of women sort of standing in a circle. As I walk over, the circle opens up a bit, and Laura Lynn Jackson was standing there, and Sarah goes, "Oh, David, do you remember Laura Lynn?" I said, "Yeah." And she looks at me and she goes, "David, I remember you too. This is going to sound weird for me to ask you, but did your dad's name start with the letter R?" I'm like, "Yeah." And said, "Did he die, or pass really suddenly?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Because he's here with us now, and he'd like me to pass you some messages that he hasn't been able to share." And I was like, "Okay." What did I just walk into here? And in the back of my head, I'm like, this is a setup that we need to have a baby. But I'm like, okay, be open to this. And this is Emily's 8. So this would have been 9 years ago. And so that would have been 2016. Mm-hmm. And my dad died in 1993.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And he said, he's here with us now, and he was really proud of you. He was there with you on the day of graduation, and he knows how hard it was for you to get to graduation and walk across the stage. He died in October, and I graduated college in May, but October to January was a bit of a period of transition on many levels. said that he's really proud of the family and the work I'm doing, but there are some things that I should probably pay attention to. Stop wearing all the fancy shoes and just get a decent pair of sneakers. For a decade, as soon as I could afford a pair of Gucci loafers, that's all I wore for like a decade. And he said, stop wearing those, throw out those PJs and get a decent pair of sweatpants. I had a pair of PJs that I'd had for like 15 years. They were washed a lot. They've gotten super soft, but they were split down the side from like the waist to the ankle. And Sarah kept trying to throw them out, and I kept taking them out of the garbage. And said, you should really pay attention to your weight. Like you should lose some weight and it will have a big impact on your health. I was like, yeah, I get that. So the shoes and the weight thing, you could tell just by looking at me. The PJs thing was a little out there.
Yeah.
Then said, you need to go to the dentist. There's something going on back here with the tooth. And if you don't get it checked out, it's going to have a big impact on your heart health. Someone in the family named Jay is going to call you with some big family news soon. I have an older sister, Juliet, and at that point in time, her eldest daughter was pregnant. So I was like, but still, the letter J in that was pretty
compelling,
striking. And then I said, and let me guess, we should have another baby. And there is a lot of light around another soul joining your family. And I'm not sure what else we said after that, but I think that's the point where I excuse myself from the conversation. I think that's everything that's covered in the book. But then what happened was I get a call from my sister like a few days later, Juliet, out of breath, panicking. I can barely hear what she's saying. She's on the way to the emergency room. Her daughter, who was pregnant, just had a stroke. And she was 8.5 months pregnant, and they were having to do an emergency C-section, but the stroke had made her go blind. It was like they weren't going to be able to give her any anesthesia. And so they were going to have to do an emergency C-section with no anesthesia. And like, didn't know if she was going to make it out. If she or the baby would make it through the next hour. And so that all went on the most positive path it could have. And so everyone got back to health. But I was like, wow, that wasn't the family news I was expecting. It's like, I need to go to the dentist anyway. So I go to the dentist to get a cleaning. I hadn't been in a while, so they take x-rays. And the dentist comes back and looks at me and goes, how much time do you have today? I go, why? He goes, because you got a cracked tooth vertically here, and I need to send you to get an emergency root canal right here because it's getting infected. And if you don't get that tooth extracted like in the next 48 hours, you may end up with a heart infection this week. I'm going, okay. And he's like, you seem pretty calm about this. I'm like, yeah. I told the ladies at the front desk about it, and they loved the story.
Yeah.
But so after that, maybe I need to buy a pair of sneakers and some sweatpants and have a baby.
Oh.
But and every time one of these things came to pass, I was texting Laura. I was like, guess what happened? And then
She already
lost
did.
the weight.
Yeah.
I'm on the treadmill.
Well,
Wow.
and just so our listeners know, all this story, to at least told from Laura Lynn Jackson's point of view, ended up in her book Signs, which is an amazing book, and we've talked about it many times. But
there are some interesting things in the book and the story. I'm the bartender in the story, and I'm David Rathke in the story. Simon & Schuster, I think maybe they did it proactively because I like it reads better this way. I don't know.
Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. That's just extraordinary. And like, I've heard it many times from different angles, but it's never less stunning. It's never less extraordinary. Like,
No, it's.
And wow, I mean, how cool that medium was in your life at this really incredibly difficult time of Caleb's crossing, yet that was seeding this really beautiful gift for Sarah, but y'all didn't know that for many years.
No,
really, if you think about it, that was like kind of like the preview, sneak, coming attraction of like what Sarah was going to be able to do and be that gift. Yeah.
We got to wrap it up, Jane.
We do. We got to close, but this has been awesome. Thank you, handsome husbands, for joining us and for all
Thank
your
you, lovely
support.
ladies, for doing what you do and allowing us to be in your orbit.
Cute.
Ditto.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you real soon, probably right here in the kitchen. And not a real big goodbye to the husbands, but David, thank you again for joining. And
you too,
really
Joe. It's always
Thanks
a
for
pleasure
having
to
us.
see you.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Very Soul is our sponsor for Medium Curious. Jane and I are both Very Soul mediums.
Oh, yes, we are. Verysoul.com, y'all. Inspired by spirit, guided by love, and brought to life by mediums. Medium Curious is made possible
By Jane Morgan Editing.
Sarah Rathke made the amazing music. Mixed by podcast engineers.
And you can help Medium Curious by downloading the episodes.
And following our socials. And the dogs under the desk in Hawaii are Kalea and Domino.
And Trixie in California.